So we're up underneath the RV and we're looking at the gray water holding tank. And you can see the gray water holding tank has rubbed on this particular rail and it's got a hole in it. It's been creased, it's been kind of sagging, and it needs repaired or replaced. And I think what we're going to do is we're just going to patch it and then we're going to kind of change the way it's supported. Now I have it up on jacks and planks here, and this frame rail is on these all threads, and the top of the all threads is actually welded to the top, and I can't get my grinder up in here, so I just cut them all off. So this frame is pretty loose and being held up by the jack. We'll drop the frame and that'll give us access to the hole that's in this holding tank, and then we'll put the frame back up. I am going to lay a piece of treated wood across the bottom so that the entire weight of the holding tank is on the wood and not necessarily on these thin strips of metal, which is what creased it and caused it to wear and break through the first place. Now this is a 1981 RV, and this is probably a factory installation, so can you fault them for a bad design problem? Well, yeah, they could have made it last longer, but it did last 40 years. So we're just going to fix it and go again. Now the tools of the trade are going to be pretty simple. You're going to need a sanding sponge or some type of sandpaper, probably fairly coarse, some JB weld, some fiberglass cloth, a mixing board, some scissors, something to stir the epoxy with. I like to use these popsicle sticks, and you're going to need some rubbing alcohol to kind of clean everything up before you put your glue on. Now that we have this crack exposed, and actually it's leaking out of here, and this has been cracked because everything just bent up the way it was mounted, you want to take a sanding sponge, which I've already done, something fairly coarse, or even some sandpaper, and just scuff it up all the way around it. That'll help clean it up, but it also is going to give us a place for our glue to stick, because what we're going to do is we're going to take JB weld and some glass cloth and patch this. Now I think this is like some type of like an ABS or an HDPE type of plastic. It's relatively difficult to patch and glue. Some of these were fiberglass, this one is not, but JB weld will stick okay to this and it will stop the leak, and using the fiberglass cloth keeps it together, because JB weld will kind of stay a little bit flexible and you want that, and the cloth will keep everything together. So that's what we're going to do next. Make sure it's really clean and give it a scuff job with your sandpaper, and we'll move on to the next step. Now at this point, what I did is I put down a layer of epoxy, or the JB weld, underneath the patch. I put the patch on top, and you can see it kind of wetted out just like you were fiberglassing. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with a coat of JB weld one more time. And if you wanted to, you could sand it down and shoot it with some paint. Alright, now we have a nice skim coat of epoxy over the top of that JB weld, and you could sand it down, and I thought about sanding it down, but you're not going to see it. This sits underneath the RV. I'm just going to put it all back together, and this patch should actually hold for a very long time. So there's the patch, and it's going to hold and not leak. And underneath it we have it supported by a piece of marine grade treated plywood. It shouldn't rot out, should last a long time. You could paint the bottom of it, but you really want this to breathe a little bit, so you definitely would want the top to not be painted. But it should last a long time like this. It is kind of out of the weather, it will get some road spray, but it's definitely a lot better than it was the way it was before. At least now the entire bottom of the tank is being supported, and these aren't going to dig into it. I like to do a lot of do-it-yourself and repair type videos. If you like these types of videos, please like and subscribe. Take a look at some of my other videos. You might be entertained.